Ding! A lesson. A good lesson. We learn many lessons when it comes to Nintendo and Nintendo-related products. And today's lesson is just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it can't happen. And I did not expect this to happen, even though, as always, in retrospect, it almost seems obvious, just because of the age that we live in. But a lot of people were saying they've never done paid DLC for Pokemon. There's no way they're gonna start now. I saw so many people saying that, scoffing at me even presenting the idea because they've never done it before. Well, everything at one point is a thing that had not been done before until it was done. And that's the takeaway from today. So the Game Freak just announced a paid DLC expansion pass for Pokemon Sword and Shield. It is a $30 expansion pass with 2 major content updates for Pokemon Sword and Shield. There's a little bit of confusion. I mean, by the time this goes out, there's not going to be any confusion. It's $30 for one of the games. If you want to buy it for both games, it's $60, but that makes sense because you bought 2 separate games. You know what I mean? Whatever. It's $30, and you get the whole entire content thing. And you know what? The DLC looks pretty good. It looks pretty darn meaty. I mean, like, they were showing some of the areas, and then the rest was concept art. It looks cool. Visually, it looks cool. It looks very just creative and interesting. It's fun that there's going to be new scenarios. One very interesting thing they said was that both new regions are all going to be like Wild Area with the free camera and the running around and the max raid battles and stuff. And that's awesome because the Wild Area was the best part, and it's the way that the entire game should have been in the first place, in my opinion. So it's really cool to know that we are, you know, I was expecting more Wild Area, and we didn't get it in the base game. It is nice to know there will at least be some more, and that's cool. There are going to be returning Pokemon, about 200 returning Pokemon. And, like, I mean, I've said this before, but, like, it's really holding back the Pokédex was kind of brilliant, because it's not as much work for you, and then later, when you bring the Pokemon back, it's kind of like, oh, it's like a fun surprise, the returning Pokemon, you know, it's like the novelty of, like, look, they're back, they're almost kind of new again. So, wow, 200, didn't expect that. I'm pretty darn sure they said, no, we're not gonna bring more Pokemon to the game. I could be wrong on that, I don't know. I thought they said they weren't, though, but whatever the case, they are now, 200 of them. Wow, that's pretty substantial. And then there's like new characters, new rivals, which I would think maybe means a new story, or at least something of a new scenario, you know what I mean? Not just a place to run around, but maybe there actually be like a thing to it, a story, or mini stories or something. So like, that's cool. This is very cool. They seem pretty meaty and substantial, and I don't know, pretty neat. And okay, so, and this is something that, it's fun that they actually specifically addressed it, is in the past, you know, they do their minor updates and then release them as full games. Originally, it was in a third game, and then it was in sequels to both games. I feel like Black 2 and White 2 were probably the most substantial. Didn't they have like a whole new story and stuff? But then like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were like barely upgraded at all. And so, and you know, they're like, this is the new alternative that presumably will be the way they're going to do things from now on, which makes a lot of sense. And I've seen a lot of people say this is a lot better than that. And it's true, but it's not hard to be better than that. Cause like, I mean, it's the way it's been forever. But when you really stop to think about it, like people get on companies for releasing a full, a game, and then, releasing a little bit of extra content in a season pass or whatever, that's, $20-30. But forever, they've been releasing these games and then like, oh, here's a little bit of extra stuff. And if you want that little bit of extra stuff, you have to buy the game all over again. And that'll be a third time if you bought both of the other versions. So it's been pretty crummy. That's been a pretty crummy way to do it. Like, I've gotten used to it, but I don't know, when you really stop to think about it, this is better. This is definitely a better way. It's just DLC. They're not going to make us buy, Sword 2, Shield 2, whatever. Just DLC. Works for everybody. It's a much better system. It's cheaper, and it looks like even more new content than usual. This is good. This is a way they should do it forever. People who are enjoying Sword and Shield are probably only over the moon right now. Probably just I don't know. It's just really, really terrific news for them. They probably just can't wait to get the hands on it. That's what I imagine. It looks like just a good thing. And you know I'm a Pokemon Sword and Shield complainer. You already know that. I hope that you, like, if you've clicked on this, you know that that's the angle I'm coming at. So if you don't like to hear people complaining about things, just, I don't know, don't watch my Pokemon videos or whatever. Because, like, from my personal perspective, it's a bit of a conundrum. Naturally, I want this DLC to be good because good content is good. You know, a product that is good and fun to play. I want that. If it's fun, I want to play it. I want other people to be able to play it. But then on a more personal level, it almost feels like, because of the way the base game is, it's almost like lose-lose over here. Because if there's not a lot of content, or it all ends up being like, oh yeah, it looks big and cool, but it's really just like you're done in like 5 hours, then that's no fun. But then on the other hand, like, the better it is, the more bitter I'm gonna be that stuff wasn't in the base game. And that's the problem here, is if you have a full great game that gets a bunch of cool DLC, then that's just great. You know, that's Breath of the Wild. It was a great game, and then some DLC was like a nice little extra thing. And that was cool. But if you saw my review, you'll know that I felt the base game was just so lacking in creativity and and content. There just wasn't a lot to do, and it was all really basic, and it feels like they rushed it. It feels like they just barely even tried to do something interesting, design-wise, creativity-wise. So if this DLC is great, I don't want to have to pay more to have actual fun. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like for my $60, I should be able to, I mean, okay, Nintendo gave me a copy. You know what I'm saying, though? For that base experience, I feel like that should have been a complete thing. They should have really tried on that. So if this ends up being even better, and it's actually creative, and even more wild area, and it's substantial, and they design stuff for it, and a better story maybe even, yeah, I don't want to pay for that. I already played this big game that I didn't really enjoy that much. Why would you just wait until the DLC to actually make it good, and then make people pay extra for you actually, like, turning on the creative juices and actually spending some time on design and stuff, you know what I mean? And then more conundrums. You know, this is going to release, the last pack will release in, you know, the fall, which means about a year after the release of the base game. So if they started on this right after they were done with the base game, that means that it was a year. So if it ends up being really good, it's going to be like, if you could make all of this awesome content in 1 year, then what happened to the base game? Why didn't that have more content and better design? Why did it feel like a skeleton of a game if you could make all of this good flesh, these fleshy parts, in 1 single year? But then if it's good because they took longer than a year, then it's like, oh, so you did hold back content. That means you were working on this while you were working on the main game, and you could have just delayed the game to put it all in there, but instead you said, let's hold it all back and sell it to them later, and that's no good either. That's the cardinal sin of DLC, is holding back content to sell it back later. So either way is kinda, what's the deal? You know what I mean? And $30 is a pretty hefty price tag. That's in line with like season passes for other big AAA games. So like, I feel like for $30, it should have to be pretty darn substantial. Though I would also think for $60 it'd have to be pretty darn substantial. It's clear that they don't really consider what the AAA space is giving people for the price. Whatever, that's a whole thing. So I don't know. That's where I'm at, is I'm just kind of, I'm conflicted. Very conflicted. Because, like I said, it does look really, really cool. 2 big new regions, all a wild area. Like, I mean, I'm actually pretty excited to play it, honestly. Like, I was a big critic of Sword and Shield. I felt that there just wasn't enough fun for me to try to keep playing. But this has intrigued me. This is absolutely like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll boot my game up again to do that. So I don't know. It's really the wait and see approach. It is just funny. It is just funny. I said in a tweet that was like, if they if they reveal paid DLC, there are going to be there's going to be riots. People are going to be mad. So it still hasn't been quite long enough for me to see how big or not big the backlash is. I am sure that there are plenty of people that are not happy about it though. But I don't know. Yeah, wait and see is just really it. I don't know. A lot will depend on what the content is and how good it is for the price and all that stuff. Whether or not this sets a precedent for later games. And there's always the whole thing, like, I mean, you know, it's a bigger discussion, but, you know, maybe this was like, oh, it was the first big game on the Switch, so maybe it was a little bare bones. But maybe the next Pokemon game will be more substantial, and then it will get substantial DLC, and it'll be great. Maybe this is one little hiccup or something, but I don't know. Just gotta wait and see. Just gotta play it when it comes out. Very surprising though. But also Mystery Dungeon. That's pretty cool, right? I was hoping for some sort of spin-off, and so Mystery Dungeon was cool, and like a remake of the first one. That's neat. It's you know, it's sort of a separate subject from the DLC, but while we're talking about the Pokemon Direct, that's cool. Demo. I'm gonna try it. Definitely gonna try it. I heard those games are pretty good. I mean, I complain about the story in Sword and Shield, so I've heard these games are pretty story heavy. So that's neato. I don't know. Let me know what you guys all think about this whole thing down in the comments. Are you happy? Are you just happy that we're getting more content because you love the game? Are you kind of a critic of the game, but also like, you know what, but I'll check out this content? Or are you absolutely livid? Are you positively livid that they would have the gall, the nerve to offer paid DLC for this game? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. I love you. You're terrific. Have a great day.